Welcome to Banta with Toni. Join me as I share stories about motherhood, faith, life, love, and everything else in between. I promise we'll also have some fun along the way, and I hope that the time we spend together will end up being some of the highlights of your week. Thank you for coming along. Knock, knock. Did you miss me while I was gone? Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the first ever episode of Banta with Toni. I can't believe it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this episode will serve you in some kind of way and that you will leave it just feeling better than when we started. So things do look a little bit different, and I think I want to address that first before I cover anything else, because it's good to kind of talk about it. I think there were some lessons there to learn. So when I started Banta, I was originally doing it with my niece, and it was an idea that I had. We actually went to Women Evolve last year, and before we went, I shared with her, I said, I wanted us to do this podcast together, and I wanted us to go to Women Evolve and have that kind of like be the catalyst for us to kind of like shed a lot of things, put a lot of things down, and then move forward. Backstory to that was that this was a time that she was going to have some time off from college because she decided to take a gap year. And I just thought, doing this podcast was something that, me and her, we can do together, and it will help to kind of, take some time as she is getting her life, figured out and put together, just to give her something to look forward to. And then, like I shared with her before, if you listen to our previous season, it's not my first time trying anything in the creative sphere. And I told her that this was going to be kind of like my last thing. Like, okay, if I try this, it doesn't work, then, whatever. Now, times have changed. How I see it now, I see it differently. And I think that's part of the beauty here, is that we started something together, but it's now taken on a different path and a different life of its own. And I think it's perfectly fine. And so I kind of like want to go through that process because I feel like there were some lessons there to learn. So when she decided that she didn't want to do the podcast anymore, we had a conversation together. And one of the things I shared with her was I felt like if she was hesitant at any point in doing the podcast with me, that she should have been upfront with me in the beginning. And I got her to see, because, she's just like, I'm doing a podcast with my auntie and I don't want to let her down. And this is something that she wants to do. And, let me just go ahead and just do it. But if it's not something that she really truly wanted to do, or if I gave her the vision, I say, this is what I envision, but it's not something that she saw for herself, she had every right to say that she didn't want to do that. And I take this moment to encourage any young people out there, because when I had the conversation with her, that's what I told her. I said, eventually you're going to get older and you're going to be a young woman in this world, eventually a grown woman in this world. And I want you to know, especially you being a Black woman in this world as well, when things are not what you want it to be, you have every right to speak up. And I want all the young girls to know you don't need to just go along to go along's sake. And that's what I told her, because I got her to see that if she had told me from the beginning that this is not really something I really want to do, it would have helped me to frame my mind differently, and I would have started the podcast off by myself. But again, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. I know that her, coming down to live with us in Texas, it wasn't just by happenstance, okay? I feel like that happened for a reason. Like I said, she was kind of going through like a transition period. So I think her doing the podcast with me, I feel like it served a purpose. Maybe one day she will look back at it and see the goodness that came out of it, because maybe now she's just like, okay, whatever. It was just something I did with my auntie. But I really feel like it did serve a purpose. Even for me, my lesson that I learned there, the lesson for her is don't get along just to get along. And I'm saying young people here, but there's some of us who are my age, even older, that sometimes we just get along just to get along. And especially, I keep saying that over and over, but it's so true, especially for us as Black women. I think we have been conditioned by society sometimes to get along just to get along, because, a lot of us, we carry things, or, and I'm only speaking from the perspective of my own life being a Black woman. I'm not saying we're the only ones that get along to get along, but I just know from what I have lived and experienced that sometimes it's asked more out of us to just get along, just to get along. And that's something from such a young age that I hope one day she's able to process and realize that she does not need to do that. If you don't like something, you don't like something. If you don't want to do something, you don't want to do something. Sometimes you will give an explanation, but sometimes you don't need to. It's just, you know what? I'll love to help you, but this is not going to work for me right now. You know what? I can help you, but I won't be able to help you until at this point. And that's perfectly fine. And if that individual takes it some kind of way, or they don't fully understand, that's their thing that they will have to process, as long as you're honest. And that's what I told her. I said, the honesty, even though at first I'm like, oh, okay, well, she doesn't want to do it. But later on, it would have been just fine, because then I would have started from the beginning where I am now. So for me, my own lesson, because, it's a two-way thing, right? I was in this with her. So she had lessons to learn in there, but I believe I had lessons to learn too. Because even that was the whole premise of our podcast when we first started, is the fact that we are both going to learn from each other. So what I learned from this whole experience is, whether it was the other times I've tried to do stuff or anything else, I think being honest with myself, I had to learn that I have to take flight by myself. And it was kind of scary. It's kind of been forced on me, but I'm coming to terms with it, and I'm finding the beauty in it, because I think whether it's depending on other people or kind of hiding, right, in a crowd of people, in a group of people, but learning that there are times in your life, there are certain things that you have to do that you cannot do with anybody else. It does not matter who that person is. It can be your spouse, it can be your mother, your sister, your twin sister. It can be anybody in your life that's close to you, but there are just certain things in life that you have to go at it alone. And it's perfectly fine. And sometimes it's scary. And if I can be honest with myself, that's what I was feeling on my end, was because, like I told her, like I've communicated with her, this was my last time trying something. And there was a part of me that felt there's a little bit more safety there, trying it with somebody else. But I talk about my faith a lot, and it will happen here on this podcast. It will be no different from anything else that I do. That's not what God wants for us. For us to truly trust him, right? Trust what he's doing in our lives. We have to be willing to take flight by ourselves, because guess what? You're not leaning on another human being. You're not leaning on your own understanding. You're not leaning on all these, sometimes the physical things. You have no choice but to lean into him. So that's what I've learned from this experience, was putting myself out here by myself, just being me in all the different facets of Toni, hoping that those of you who have subscribed will just continue to listen, and hoping to gain some new listeners along the way. But trusting God, right? Trusting the plan that he has for my life, trusting that he will put me where I'm meant to be, and that in this part, in this section, in this chapter of my life, as I take flight by myself, that I'm trusting that he will direct the way. So those were the two takeaways. And I just knew that I had to come here. And that's one of the first things I had to do, was just recap what that first season was. And even as I thought about, okay, now going on my own, I knew that I needed to leave that first season where it was. I didn't want to start a whole new show, because I think it's important to leave that there, because it's like a placeholder, right? And like I've said before, she might not see it now as what it is, but I think one day she can come back to it. And, I feel like we had some good episodes. I feel like we talked about some great things. After our podcast will come out, I will see certain things on social media where people will, say, oh, from a younger woman giving advice to an older woman, or vice versa, older woman giving advice to a younger woman. So I truly do believe that there was some influence there, that we did have conversations, and we did spark conversations that other people were able to have. And that was the whole goal for that first season. And so I wouldn't come back and take it away. And sometimes that's the beauty of life, right? You plan something, it doesn't go exactly as you plan for it to. But as it evolves and changes, right, what stays constant is saying, okay, this is where I am right now. This is where I want it to be, but this is where I am. And I think this is a perfect representation of that. I wanted it to be Banta with Toni and Mimi, a cross-generational conversation. And it was that for the first season. And it was a great first season. But now it's Banta with Toni. And I feel like it's going to be a different show. And who knows what season 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 will be. It might change as we go along, right? But that's the beauty of it. And I think that's what I have even come to learn and see, is that all versions of Banta, the past, where it's at now, where it's going to be in the future, they're all valid, and they're in some ways going to tell their own story. So this is going to be the season of Banta with Toni as she takes flight by herself and figure this thing out. But I am going to give it the best that I can. And I hope whatever I bring to the table that we talk about, that it leaves you in a better place than you were before. And I don't think because I have a mic here that I know everything. I do not. I make mistakes all the time, whether it's in my walk with God, whether it's in motherhood, whether it's in friendships and relationships and figuring things out. I don't have it all figured out. But what I've come to learn is, we learn more, we get more when we have discourse with people, when we're able to talk, when we're able to say, this is what I'm feeling. And if I bring up something on this podcast today and it sparks somebody else to start talking about something, as long as you give me credit, because I'm over that part of my life. I am so over my ideas and things and stuff being taken from me and not given credit. Okay, as long as you come back and you credit this episode and you say, you know what, I was listening to this podcast by Toni, this individual, and this is where I got this idea from, and it made me, feel free to use it. Like, ideas, they're meant to be fluid. All I care about is, like, give me my dues. Say, you know what, I heard this from her show and I'm deciding to have my own version of it. That's it. Okay, because that's the season I'm in. I've been through too much to be out here playing with myself. I know. Well, now you see now you're getting in my brain. Not that kind of way. Hello. But I'm just saying, I've been through too much to be out here doubting myself, not knowing my worth, not knowing what I bring to the table. I know I'm going to bring a different perspective on things. I know what I bring. It might not be for everybody, but there are going to be people who is going to resonate with. And I hope you get to join me along. Okay. So that was that. Pop culture. Oh my gosh. One of the things I say, and I'll be saying it over and over again, is if you do it, I have to talk about it. So these pop culture stories, I have to talk about them because people keep doing stuff. Every time I turn around, there is something going on in the media. And even if I try to not talk about it, I can't. Okay. I mean, people are in like different levels. Some people are like part-time fools. Some people are full-time fools. Some people are like maybe a quarter fools. Some people run a whole foolery academy and they're not even aware that they are the principal of the foolery academy. Okay. So they're just different levels. And then some of us, we're wise, but we have moments of foolishness. We're all going to be fools at some point. So if you do it, I'm going to talk about it. That's just it, because it's entertaining to me. It's funny. Then we're going to have that part of the show. But of course, we are also going to dive into just personal stories, motherhood, health. I'm going to share whatever books I'm reading at the moment, music. You already know this, that there will be some music thrown in here, what I'm listening to currently, and just life. Like, let's just life together in this stage that I'm in whatever stage you're in. And just like with the first season, send me, I keep saying us because I'm so used to the us, right? Send me your questions, send me, voice notes. Now that I don't even have a host, more than ever, I need that participation. So send me your messages, send me your voice notes, add me on socials, and let's do this thing together. So I really do appreciate you guys for listening to this episode, and I hope you will return again and again and again. All right. Pop culture. So one of the things, obviously, TikTok is not going anywhere. It is where it is. It is what it is. I just saw something in the news the other day about a lawsuit that's going on as far as with parents like suing TikTok for saying that it's addicting. And yes, that's valid. But to me, it's almost like doing like hot potato. In my household, we've made a decision that our kids will not have cell phones until they reach a certain age. Why? Because we have seen, whether it's with cell phones or video games or anything that kind of takes their attention span away, the iPad, all of that stuff, that we want to give their brains a chance to develop. We want to give them a chance to learn some of the social aspect, interacting with other kids, coming up with games, like the stuff we used to do. There's a reason why there's a kid somewhere in Africa with a freaking tire and a stick, okay? Because that's what happens when you're bored. You're like, there's a tire there. There's a stick. Let me use the stick to push the dang tire down the road. So whatever it is that you come up with as kids, we just want them to have that. So it's like when they're hanging out with their friends, I don't care. Go find the tree in the backyard and jump off of it. That's what we used to do. So we really try to limit like their screen time and all of that stuff that they do. Now, this is not in any way to shame anybody, because let me tell you, parenting is not easy. Do we accomplish that all the time? No. Okay. My daughter still knows whatever the latest TikTok dances. She still knows all this stuff. Why? Because it's around them 24/7. So even though she doesn't have a phone of her own, she is still able to get the media through like YouTube or her friends from school. Like, just because we decide that that's how we're going to run our house, it doesn't mean that she's not still like living in the world. Hello. So it's still there. But what I didn't like about that was I just felt like some of the parents were playing like hot potato. Like, no, your child got addicted to TikTok. Yes, the app itself can be addicted in some ways. You can, be running on it. Even me as an adult, is the truth. It is. But what have you done to help around with that? Have there been times you've taken your child's phone away? Has there been times that you have actually deleted the app? I mean, are we going to start from there? Or are we just going to say we're going to sue TikTok and get some money, but then you're not going to do anything in your life to actively change that? So where is that responsibility? I was just like, I don't really know. I mean, if it's a money grab, it's a money grab. It's what it is. But at the end of the day, it is you in your home. You are the one that creates this environment for your kids. You're the one that decides. And sometimes it's been hard for us because, our kids will come, oh, my friend just got the PS6. Well, that's great. Or I don't even know what PS is the latest now. And that's fine, but everybody makes their own choice. It doesn't make one better than the other. We just decided for us, we wanted to limit screen time as much as possible. So we didn't even purchase these things. My daughter has an iPad and my son has like a Amazon tablet. But like if we notice that they are on those devices too much, we will take them away for an extended period of time. She has been without her iPad for probably like 6 months now. So it's just what we decide to do for us. So I think it's just like people just need to get reminded of that. Like there's an iPhone, whatever. I don't know what the latest iPhone is, whatever it is, Pro Max, but there's nowhere that it says you need to go and buy that for your child. There's iPads out there, but there's nowhere that it says you must have it for your child. And if you do choose to have it for your child, it's still your home. You're still the one leading it. Like the kids are not parenting themselves. We're still the parents. So you decide, what does that look like for you? Because maybe you work from home. So, even though you're around, you still need that quiet time. So you might say, okay, he or she can be on the iPad because they get off school at 4:00 and I'm still working till 6. So you can be on the iPad for those 2 hours while I'm working because I still need you to just keep quiet while I'm, finishing work. But after 6, once I'm done with work, I'm taking the iPad. It's going in my office. It's being put away. And we are going to do some things together as a family, cook dinner, do other things, whatever it is. I ask you how your day was, go through your next day, whatever our routine is. And I just want us to remember that because sometimes it's almost like we get into like this zombie mode of just, okay, well, that's what everybody's doing. So that's what I'm doing. Is it really? Is it? Because if you start asking questions, sometimes we all are thinking the same thing, but there's this impression that, oh, everybody, no, not everybody. Because I've met enough parents too that are like, okay, we really try to work on the screen time, or, we don't have electronics and we don't do that. And then if you're a parent that does it and you do it, you do it out of like necessity, or you choose to do it and you don't care, then you don't care, But I just thought that story was interesting. So another TikTok story. And oh my God, this one just kind of got under my skin. So there's this lady called Denaesha Gonzalez, and she posted this video. It was a very simple video. Now this video has like 4.6 million views on TikTok, where she was at, I'm believing it's Target. So she was at Target and she was in the baby aisle, and you can tell like when somebody puts something back. So you can tell, it's a lot of assumption going on here. She's assuming that one, it's a woman, and that it's a mother because, it was done in the kids aisle. So she's assuming that this mother put back the purse in order for her to buy whatever baby product it was. I think it was like baby lotion or something. And this lotion that she would have picked up was like $4.99. So it's the fact that this mother had to make a decision like, do I buy this purse or do I buy the lotion that my kid needs? And of course, because she put the purse back, and I'm saying that in like air quotes because you don't know for sure that's what happened. It could have just been a lazy worker that didn't want to put the inventory back where it belonged. But let's just go with this because I think it brought out the good and the bad in people. Okay. So this purse was in the section that the lotion would have been. So then the assumption here is that this mother put down the purse in order to buy this baby lotion. So this woman made this video just saying she deserved the purse. And it was that idea like, these are sometimes the sacrifices that as mothers we have to make for our children, right? This person had to decide, I'm going to put this purse down so I can buy lotion for my child. And then it makes you think about all the other times in your life. I am over here, I'm raising my hand because I can totally relate. There have been times when, whether it's with even me doing this podcast or things that I want to do for myself, I'll put other things before it. Like nobody even tells me to do these things, but I'll be like, I can't do this if my house is not clean. I can't do this if I haven't cooked this. I can't do this, so it's like, it's automatic for us. Like we tell ourselves, what are the things that you're saying you can't do because I'm a mother and I have to put my kids first. So the essence of Denaesha's video was just saying this woman deserved the purse. Like I said, it brought out the good and bad in people. So then people started going to the baby aisles and they will put like money. So they will put like money in the formula. Like they'll just open just the top of it and put some money in there. Like people could go and get some Huggies and somebody would sneak like a little $100 bill in there. Because it's this idea like for a mom, if you go out there and you're buying these things for your children, here's a little extra money. Do something nice for yourself. So like I said, it brought out the good in people. But then there are some obnoxious teenagers, or I won't even just put it on teenagers because there's a video that I saw where the lady said she saw teenagers, but it could be anybody. So can you imagine now? There are people going around these aisles, opening these things. First of all, when somebody has a baby, they're so like germophobic. Who wants to go and have you opening their freaking formula and all these things? Because these people are looking for the money that people would have hidden inside of there. And I just feel like this situation just highlights sometimes like what is wrong with us. Like what? People are actually inspired to do something out of kindness. You can't just let somebody have something, but it's this idea like, well, it's mine, I'm gonna have it. So yeah, you're doing that act of kindness, but I'm gonna take advantage of it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I would have never even thought of that. Like this lady, Miss Gonzalez, when she made this video, other people who decided, let me go around and put money in those things, like that is a normal thing to do. It like, okay, just give somebody like a little surprise. It's no different from like when you're in the line with somebody and you say, I'm gonna pay for my order and I'm gonna pay for theirs too. Or, just these little acts of kindness that people can do. And you can't even do that anymore. Like that is the kind of society that we're living in. Now, mind you, I understand that it's economically hard times. I know that we're in unprecedented times more than ever before. But I don't know who I was having this conversation with that I was expressing. I said, sometimes I feel like in America, people feel like they're entitled to people's things. And when they're able to justify it in their head, then it makes it okay. So you're able to say, I'm going to steal from this individual because I have assumed from looking from the outside that they don't need whatever it is I'm about to take from them. So I'm okay with taking it. And I've justified it to myself. So I'm going to do it. So in this same case, it's like, okay, they put some money in the boxes. I'm going to feel free, like whatever. It's a free country. Like who told them to be stupid and put the money in the boxes? Okay, so I'm going to go in there because I feel like what I need, my needs are more important right now than whatever that other person might. So I'm going to take it. And we have to work on that because to be honest, I feel like if it was any other society that somebody was doing these acts of kindness, you wouldn't even think about it. I have traveled to places where somebody's not even going to think to go and take the money. Like the money, everybody doing it will stay exactly where it's meant to be. And people will go along, buy their whatever and be pleasantly surprised. Like that will not even be something that crosses people's minds. But that's part of like what we have kind of fostered in this society of ours is people feeling entitled to people's things and then having no remorse whatsoever, having like, I don't know if anybody's losing any sleep thinking, oh my gosh, I collected somebody. No, you're not. You're just like, well, they dropped it and I deserve to have it. And so I'm going to do that. So I just thought that video was really interesting. Of course, while I was gone, the never-ending story that we've all been hearing about for 3-4 weeks, and I'm not going to go into it, giving any details that we already heard. We don't heard about all the baby oil and all that stuff because, we tired at this point. We don't have no more. But I hope from my perspective, looking at everything, I hope we learn the lessons that we need to learn from it. This idea of like what power can do to people, right? So the power that he had, he was able to use it to silence people in some ways, right? Because there are people who were helping him facilitate these acts, but they never questioned it. They never stopped because one, they were afraid of how powerful that he was. And then I'm sure there was monetary gain. So it kind of goes back to even that story that I was just sharing. Like the money kind of like makes people or fuels them to just do some crazy stuff. So there's that. And then we have to talk about how do we get to a point like, okay, so we all know he's going to be the face of it. But then how do you get to decide who also gets to have consequences, right? Because right now, all the lawsuits are coming out. More are coming out, right? And they're all directed at this one individual. And it's not looking good. It's not looking good. We already know it. It is what it is. It's looking the way it's looking. At this point, it's a duck. It quacks like a duck. Duckity duck, duck. It's a duck. So it is what it is. But then how do you hold like a whole system accountable? And then do you trust that that same system can change? Do you truly believe that? Because I'm hoping that when this stuff comes out, that what it causes is a lot of people to examine themselves, right? Little Boozy, is that how you say it? Boozy? Oh, Lord. Boozy. I think that's his name. I remember because I'm a home decor person. So while I'm home cleaning and doing stuff, I will watch home decor videos or people giving tours of their house. So of course I like to watch like even like the celebrity ones. Just yesterday I watched I think his name is Jimmy Butler, his Architectural Digest video, and I loved it. They did such a great job with his house, but his personality really got to come through on that interview as well. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of this guy. And because I don't watch basketball. See, I even got the sport wrong. I don't watch basketball like that. But I was like, oh, this is refreshing. And I liked his personality. Like, he was just being himself, and it was quirky and funny and all of that. So he has a new follow out of me on Instagram. And even the lady that designed the house too, I went ahead and followed her as well, because I felt like she did such a phenomenal job. So like, I have this thing of like watching people give tours of their homes, or, you know, Studio McGee. I've watched all the videos, Architectural Digest. I do all that. So there was a video of Boosie showing his apartment, his home. He has like how many acres of land, a lot of land, and he built, you know, a beautiful home on the land. But when I was watching this guy's video, I could not even finish it in one sitting. I had to watch half, then come back the next day and finish the other half. Because mind you, every other scene was like, oh, this is where, you know, we do it at. And this is my boom boom chair. And this is the boom boom room. And while you're doing it here, you can watch yourself. And I'm like, why? What is happening? What is happening? Why am I watching a video about your house, and every 2 seconds I have to hear about how you're doing it? So when he came out with the statement, kind of like defending the whole thing, talking about, well, is it a crime to fly? I was like, of course you're going to be the one to ask the question, is it a crime to fly girls out? Because that video told me already what I needed to know about you, sir. Like, of course you participate in some of these activities and probably do not see anything wrong with them, because who goes on TV or YouTube, whatever, put yourself out there in the media showing your home, and half of it is you talking about sex, and think that that's normal behavior? But that is your reality. So that's normal behavior for you. So yes, of course, you're going to come out and defend these things. So to be honest, I know a lot of people have been saying, a lot of people have been quiet. Some of them need to stay quiet, because when they speak, like the Boosie guy, I'm just like, you were probably guilty too. Yeah, you probably should have stayed quiet, because you ain't telling us. Sir, we know if you see that video, you will not be surprised by him making those comments, because I'm just like, dude, like, your freakishness could not even take a break for you to show a tour of your house. Like, I don't need to know that this dude had a spot in the video where he said, this is my sperm on the chair. Why are you letting us know that? That's a sign you have something else going on. Like, you can't give a tour of your house without you talking about sex that much and in such an obscene way. Oh my gosh, I could not. So I can go both ways. The people that are quiet, because I know everybody's like, well, people have been so quiet. Well, yeah, to be honest, there's nothing right you can say here, because if you have been at some point friends with him, and in some point you knew Cassie too, and then you probably know a lot of the stuff that's been going around, yeah, probably keeping quiet is the best thing for you to do. You do need to keep it at arm's length with a 10-foot pole, because I do feel like if some people start running their mouth and saying things, it's going to change how you view and see them forever. So in the name of, you know, PR and all that stuff, of course they're going to keep quiet. I expect nothing less. So that is what it is. And right now, weather-wise, I just, you know, for all the people in Florida, oh my goodness, I feel so terrible, because I'm like, they just had a rough time. And I remember seeing there's a church that was doing like drives and donations, and I planned on donating, and I'm still going to, but then now there's this other category 5 coming their way. I haven't checked up yet to see what the latest update is, but you know, Mother Nature, man, Mother Nature, I cannot imagine. And sometimes, you know, life just hits you, and it just like, it doesn't stop. So it's like, you've already went through the badness of, you know, trying to even semi-recover from one last week, and then here comes another one. And I do feel like the devastation there is going to be a very enormous devastation that it will take a while for them to recover from. And, you know, I don't know anybody that's living in Florida, but anyone that is out there, you know, you're in my prayers for sure, because I cannot imagine you go back, there's no resemblance really of your home. I mean, we experienced over here in Texas, the last one we had was a category 1. And I was like, that was a 1? Trees were uprooted. Trees fell on people's homes. People didn't have life for like 2 weeks. And that was a category 1. And you telling me there's a 5? Good Lord. I know what I went through, and I didn't even go through that much. Let's be honest. Like, when the stuff that hit Texas happened, I think I lost power for like 1 day. So even me saying I know what I went through, girl, I didn't went through nothing really in the grand scheme of things. There were people who were without power for 2 weeks. So my little going through was not even going through. But I can't imagine now, like, and I'm an empath. So in case you can't tell, that is why I will be thinking right now about, oh my gosh, people in Florida, even though I know nobody in Florida, but I'm like, I'm praying for you. And of course, we have to be smart. So if you do want to donate anything, always do your research. Always try to find somebody or an organization that you know you can trust. and that funds are going to be there. And then sometimes it's the good old fashioned way too. Like if you do happen to know somebody that's out there in Florida, I mean, just ask for their Cash App and send them money that way or something, you know. But I hope that we can be better world citizens of each other. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't imagine just how much your whole life can change, and you can't control it. Like that's just nature being nature. And I know a lot of like the people that have been, you know, talking about global warming, like this would be another thing for them to alarm us about, like, okay, look at all this, the level of which things have been happening and the consistencies of it. Because man, it was like what, less than a week or 2 weeks apart. Like that's crazy. And then, you know, when you look at even the cycle of the earth, you know, when you study the short amount of time we've been on here, yes, you have moments where it's like, yeah, things happen. I do believe that there are things that we have caused that have been a result of global warming, that have been a result of the pollution and everything else that we've had. And then I do think like earth kind of goes into like the cycles of like creation and destruction and, you know, all of that. So there's that too. Because it's almost like a God complex with ourselves, like if that makes sense. Like we just think we created this and we are the ones that are causing this to happen. Yeah, there's a part there where we have played a role. I'm not going to deny that at all. But I don't think everything is to blame because we have done it. Like some of it is also just like how the world and life and earth, even when you study it, like before we came onto it, it was, you know, flooding and a whole bunch of species no longer exist that used to. I mean, the dinosaurs are no longer here anymore. So anyways, when you get into that stuff, then, you know, again, we can have discourse. Let's get to the place where we can talk about things, where sometimes we can have opposing views, where sometimes I'm not going to budge and you're not going to budge, but we're still going to be civil and exist like human beings that have the ability to think through things. And that's what separates us from other animals. Because when we lose that, then we're really saying that we're no different from the animals we go and see at the zoo. So we cannot lose that. Like I can still think differently from you. I can still do things my way and you can still do things your way. And we can just continue to float on this earth. The whole point is that when I listen to you, you might bring things for me in a different perspective that I've never thought about it before. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden I'm going to change my viewpoints. But I might say, you know what? Okay. So next time I'm having this conversation with somebody, I'll be like, well, you know what? I'm aware that this X, Y, and Z can happen. However, this is still how I believe. Sometimes that's all that interaction is going to do for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that I must convince you now to have my viewpoint. No. And for people like me that are very stubborn in this life, good luck. Because actually, the more you rah, the more I'm like standing 10 toes down. Like, nope, absolutely not. Not going to do that. Like the best way to get me to not do something is to show me that everybody is doing it. I'm going to be like, really? Okay. Yeah, that's why I'm going left, because everybody going right. Yeah, because what I'm not going to do is just do something just because everybody else is doing it. So yeah, you tell me everybody is going right. Yeah, I'm going to go left. Oh, everybody's going left. I'm going north. Okay. Yeah. You know, some of us are just built like that. Like we're just not going to. And I think we have to just spend more time just listening to each other. The last thing I'm going to bring up is the vice presidential debate, because I do feel like it reminded me of what politics used to be. And I hope that we can get back to it. I hope once all the nonsense dies down, that we get back to that part of just civility and, you know, manners. And I liked what I saw when, you know, they had opposing viewpoints. There are parts they didn't agree with. But then when somebody said something that made sense, you still came out and said, you know what? I agree with you there. Can we do more of that, please? You don't need to say Vance is still the Republican candidate and Waltz is still the Democratic candidate. I know who exactly I'm going to vote for. That debate didn't change it for me. But all I'm saying is that you are able to say, you know what? I was able to see something from your side. Something that you say, you have opposing views of me. You don't live my life. I don't live your life. But what you're saying there makes sense. That can exist. We need to do more of that. Like you can truly say, you know what? Your viewpoint on this issue, I can never agree with you. We don't stand on it. However, I see you. However, I see what you're saying. However, what you're saying makes sense. And the world will continue to spin. And it will be a much more peaceful place for us to be. But what happens is that we say, this is what I think. And everybody else must think it too. And then we go through a whole thing of trying to get people all to think about it the way that we do. And then those who don't, we decide that, oh, not only can they not exist in our world, they cannot exist at all. What? Come on. The arrogance of it all, right? It's crazy. Oh my goodness. So before I go, the way we used to format the old show is we'll kind of talk about pop culture. We will have whatever our core thing that we wanted to talk about for that episode is, and then we'll end it with a song recommendation. For me, it's going to be songs, but sometimes it'll be books too, because I listen to audiobooks a lot. And so if I'm listening to something that I think will be great for me to share, this will be the part that I'll also share it too. So for me, what I wanted to talk about just a little bit before I go, because I didn't want this first episode to even be too long, but what I wanted to talk about today was this idea of like with my faith and my walk. So I've been going through this journey with my faith. I was born in the church. I was born in the Catholic church, actually. And then throughout my childhood, my parents actually started going to a non-denominational church. And in all my adulthood, those are the only kind of churches I've gone to. So it's not really a denominational church that I participate. I've been to Baptist, I've been to Methodist. So I have experienced like all the denominations and all that. But I prefer the non-denominational because I think the emphasis should always be on my relationship with God. So I follow churches where I have a relationship with God. I don't need to pray to somebody. I don't need to come to somebody to confess things. And I talk directly to him. And when I do my part as far as putting myself, whether it's through fasting or I'm in the spirit or whatever, then he speaks through me as well. So I firmly believe that I can talk to God directly and that he can talk to me as well. Now, part of what I've always been like hesitant about whenever it comes to like me sharing my faith or, you know, just being me is that with a lot of things that are there with me, I don't fit into boxes. So I don't necessarily feel like I don't know, only people out there will have to speak. I don't know if anybody has seen my walk or has observed my walk and has helped them to have a walk with God as well. Only they can speak for that. I don't know. But I just know it doesn't look like the typical walk, right, that somebody could have with God. I think, however, in this season that I'm in spiritually, it's a season of growth for me. And it says it in the Bible, you know, you speak as a child, but when you get knowledge, yeah, it's asking for something different out of you. So for me, I am in that phase of like, I'm no longer supposed to be a child and speak as a child, but I'm gaining knowledge. I'm experiencing God in a different level than I've ever experienced him ever in my life before. So I think life is asking out of me to grow. And one of the things I think I've always been hesitant with, so first things first, I've always had a reverence for God. There are times when I love music. I love to sing. There are times when the opportunity was there for me to like sing worship. And I did it for a little bit, maybe like when I was like 8 or 9, I sang in like the church choir. But when I was older, there were times there when there were opportunities for me to like sing in the choir. And then I was attending a church one time where I did it for a little bit, but I didn't consistently do it because I have a reverence for it. And the idea, like, if I'm going to lead worship, then I need to be in the spirit, I feel like all week long, right? And I have to submit myself in that way where God can then speak to me and use me when I go up there and I'm giving worship. So I never felt like I was living a life worthy enough to be able to lead worship. I hope people can follow me with this, right? Because that's just what I have in my head. Like, if somebody's up there and they're leading me in worship, I have to believe that they are in tune with God and they are just at another level prayer-wise. Like, I'm sorry, I can't have you leading worship and I saw you at the club yesterday. And so if there's a part of me that knows I still want to be able to go to the club, then I know I can't lead worship. Like, that's just how it makes sense for me. So there have been times when I've hesitated and I've held myself back from doing those things and participating in that way because I just felt like the life I was leading was not worthy enough for me to take those positions. I hope that makes sense. So, however, I feel like in my adult life right now, there's been a collision of what I think I am and then how and what God wants to use me. And I feel that strongly. I truly do. Because now it's like I know that I can have influence and I can speak to people in a certain way as far as with faith. But I know they can easily look at my life in certain aspects and be like, oh, well, this is the person that's leading with faith. And, you know, she decides to, you know, wear a swimming suit that shows her boobs and all these things. And I'd be like, well, yeah, I felt like wearing that swimming suit that day. But at the same time, I'm like afraid there's fear there of me leading people astray. Does that make sense? Like, because I am still figuring things out, but however, I've come to feel at this stage of my life that I'm in some way, shape or form supposed to lead things or lead people, then I have this tug of war within myself, because I'm like, I still want to be Toni, but there's a version of Toni that's gonna have to emerge, that's being called out here. And then I have to struggle with the feeling of worthiness, like I've always said, because I would be like, I'm gonna make mistakes, I'm going to not say the right things, I'm going to do things that are not always right. I know where my heart is, I know what I seek, I know that God speaks through me, he'll continue to do that. But then I also know that sometimes it's tough, and in me finding my place, and because I'm a human being that comes with, trauma and experiences and all these different things, there's always going to be ways where it gets clouded. And maybe at this point in my life, it's just me kind of maybe surrounding myself with different people. Because I thought about it the other day. I was like, if I had more friends that were like walking in faith, or like they had like leadership roles in church or whatever, maybe it might help me see things differently, because I'll be seeing it from a different lens. But I think I still feel like I'm from the outside looking in, like I'm an in-betweener. Like I'm not truly accepted into faith spaces, because I truly don't think people look at me and think, oh, well, she has. And if they do, they might have judgments and things. But I'm not really, like my mom used to say, worldly either. I'm kind of like in between. Like sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm there. But maybe it'll be different if I have that. And so I wanted to kind of put that out there. If anybody else is in that space, like where you're like an in-betweener like me, but then there has been like a tug for you to go more deeper with your walk with God and what's been asked of you, but you're hesitant there, because to be honest, I think I'm very comfortable now being in the in-between. I'm very comfortable saying that I don't fit here and I don't fit there, and I'm okay with it. But then when I'm asked to go deeper, that means I have to enter certain spaces, right? And be in those spaces more. And that's going to come a lot of times more, I feel like, with more judgment, with more people looking, because then they can say, oh, well, how can she be on that stage? Or how can she lead this, but she's doing this? Or, like when they're always going to look for your butts, when they're always going to look for the thing that you're doing. And I don't know, because I feel like I can defend it more when I'm in the in-between. But if I'm gearing more towards something else, going more towards certain things, then it's like almost like I'm at the mercy of those people. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I'm still processing it. And so I think that's where my hesitancy comes from right now. And one of the things I've learned in my walk with God is that he will speak something to me. And a lot of times it's the amount of time and what it takes for me to bring that into fruition. So perfect example, when I was fasting this year during the Ramadan season for a whole month, God spoke to me and told me to donate my tithes this year to 12 different churches. And really how it's going to work is like, he's going to speak to me and be like, give here, give to this one. And I have to listen to his voice. That's it. Okay. There were months when I knew that I was supposed to tithe, but I'll come up with excuses like, oh my God, I have to pay for this. I have to do this. I have to do that. I cannot. And then there are months where I went ahead and I was obedient and I did what I was supposed to do. And it was just like a few months ago, I was looking, I was like, I could have been done with this stuff by now, because it was really only him really asking me to tithe for like half the year, 6 months out of the year. And it's now like prolonged into this whole thing. And when would we fast? Like that was like what, March or April? So I could have been done with it already if I was just obedient and following it. But I promise you, it's not been an easy road on this side. I feel like everything that could go wrong has been going wrong. Like it'd be like unexpected expense here, or you're doing this here, or at the same time I'm trying to fix this, and I'm still growing as far as with my walk with like my finances and stuff. So I've been trying to like fix things and get things better. But I promise you, it's like 50 million things will come up. And I'm a strong enough person in my faith that I know like that's part of like how the devil will work, right? Because it's like I'm going to do things, or I'm going to bring up things that will make you believe that I cannot give that money where it's supposed to go, because it's difficult right now. It's hard right now, but it's just a perception of it, because what God gave it to me and he's asking me to do this with it. And the devil will come up with all types of ways to try to convince me that, oh, I can't give it right now because I really need it here, or this person needs it, or that person. And it's like, you can still tithe and you can still give offering. Like the one is not dependent on the other. But those are the things that I've been like battling with. So as I'm working through that, and then it takes you being like honest and seeing yourself. So as I'm seeing myself, right, I'm just like, okay, so this is a pattern. This is something that I do where I'm given a word or I'm being asked to do something, but I drag my feet. And at this stage of my life now, it was okay at some point, but at this stage of my life now, what I'm getting is that it's no longer okay. Like if he asked me to do something today, I need to do it tomorrow. not 6 months from now, not a year from now, not when it's convenient for me, not all of that. No, when he asks me to do it, and I just need to do it. And it's part of the faith. It's part of the trusting that if he asks me to do it, even if I feel like I have obligations and things to meet, which we're still going to be smart with our money. I'm not saying don't pay your bills and all that stuff. But even if I feel like, well, I could use it here or use it there, I have to trust that because, he said he will bless the remaining, right? So things will fall into place how they're supposed to be. And that's me having that faith. And so it's a bunch of things. Because then if you come from a traumatic space with money, yes, it can be very hard for you to trust that because you have learned this is what I work for myself and this is what I have tangibly and this is what I have to spend. So if I'm now giving this amount, then that means there's money that I don't have for that. And it's hard for you to let go of it. So it's been a ride. And I just wanted to just share that a little bit to just kind of open up that space. If anybody wants to share, write a comment, send me a voice note, add it to socials when I will finally share, clips of this episode on there. But yeah, when you feel sometimes you don't feel like you're worthy enough to lead things with God. So whether it's a small Bible study group or I was given, my example was praise and worship because I just didn't feel like what I'm doing is worthy enough. I have to be. And I still have that idea. I'm just saying I will have to be deeper in my walk and be in that place for me to do that. I'm not saying that I'm going to go up tomorrow and be like, oh, I want to be in the church choir and I'm just not. Yeah, no. I'm saying that's how I view it. That's where I'm going to require myself. But if God is saying I do want you to sing in the choir, then I'm at the space right now where I'm okay, how am I going to do that? How am I going to be in the spirit? What am I going to do? What are the things I have to give up so I can go deeper into that walk? And then there's a part of, taking you as you are. So I've been thinking about that too. Maybe part of my journey is God just taking me where I am right now. And me trusting that he will have me and the work that needs to be done within me will be done as I enter these spaces. So maybe all I need to just say is yes, right? And then before you know it, I will accomplish those things. As far as if singing, I keep going back to the singing just as an example, but let's say that's what I want to do. Next thing you know, I will find myself in the space where I am fasting more or I'm spending more time in the word and what is needed for me to accomplish that, or that I know, okay, this is what's required of me. It will happen, but it won't happen yet if I don't even say yes and step into it. You know what I mean? So that's been another part of it that I've been thinking about. But just realizing that you must grow. And that's the beauty of people's walks. And that's why it's so important for people not to judge people. Because sometimes you don't know how long somebody is going to be in a particular phase of their life of growth. And sometimes it's a tug of war. For me, I just know it's been the comfortability and familiarity with me feeling like I don't fit in one area or the other. And again, this is my own inner battle. How people perceive me from the outside might be different. Somebody might look at me from the outside and be like, oh, I always thought you were churchy. Or somebody might look at me from the outside and be like, I didn't think church at all when I looked at you. But this is what I have been struggling with within myself. So, it's one thing, to do what you're being asked, right? But it's another thing to actually do it. Did that make sense? Okay, it's one thing to know what you're being asked. That's what I wanted to say. To know what you're being asked. I know for sure what I'm being asked. But it's another thing completely to do it. And I'm working through that. And so with the whole tithing thing, one thing I wanted to share was that, I was told to give to 12 churches throughout the year, to tithe to 12 churches. And then when I looked up the significance of the number 12 in the Bible, it kind of blew me. I shared it on my threads, but I have 171 followers on threads. So nobody might see anything that I share on there. But I shared it on there because I felt like it was significant, because once I looked at it, it was 12 is just a number of order. There are just so many things that God did in the Bible that were just done in 12. There were 12 disciples. So I had read up on it and it was just the number shows up so much. So what I took it at is multidimensional. I feel like the churches that God is talking to me to donate to, I don't know what they might be going through. Some of them might feel like things are not working out for them. And some of them might feel like things are. But I feel like God is going to bring order to those churches that I am donating to. I wholeheartedly believe that. And then I feel like it's also for me too. I feel like when I accomplish this that God is asking me to, that he will also bring order into my life as well. So in the areas that I feel like are disordered and disarray or whatever, I will have more clarity. So this conversation that I've been feeling like I've been having with myself, as far as God is calling me to do more, but I don't know if I'm going to fit in, or if I'm going to be accepted, or I'm going to be looked at as worthy enough. And I don't even know if I see myself as worthy enough. I feel like when I accomplish what he has asked me to do, which I should have been done with already, once I accomplish that, I think I'll gain a better sense of clarity with it. And so for me, then it's made me see like, everything in life is intertwined. It's all tied together. Like I'm seeking clarity in my life, in what I'm thinking of doing next, or how I'm thinking of pursuing my relationship with him, even in like my studies with school or with work. I just feel like when I do this act and finish what he has asked me to do, that there will be order in all aspects of my life. And that's the beauty of going on this walk with God, is like it translates into so many other things. So anyways, I didn't want to be on here for too long, like I said, but I just wanted to share that in hopes that it might bless somebody out there, or it might get somebody out there that's maybe been feeling the same thing to share. Maybe you're on the other side of it. Maybe you are, a few steps ahead of me and you've been where I am. And like I said, I love discourse. Chat with me, send me a message, send me a video, anything, tag me, talk to me directly, please. But anyways, just share what it is that you might have some wisdom that might help me in this, my moment. But I'm working through it. I'm very hopeful, and I'm 100% sure that I'm going to get there at the right answer. It's just a matter of when it's going to come and when it's going to happen. But that's where I wanted to leave this. And it is that idea, like, I am leaning on God and I'm leaning on my faith. And I think I'm being asked to do it in a way I've never done it before. And it's scary, but at the same time, I feel relieved too, right? Because it's almost like I am taking where I've always felt like I decide, what am I going to do next? How am I going to do it? How am I, how? I've always been the architect, and it's like, girl, just rest. And I'm just like, there's certain things that I have seen that I'm just like, is that you, God, moving in that way? But it's like, I don't want to completely, so I'm still working through stuff. But again, I just want to come on here and just be honest and just talk about where I am. And hopefully other people can relate. And next time, we'll dive into another topic and another thing. And that's really what I hope Banta with Toni will get to be. We're going to have fun. It's going to be entertaining. But I want us to, be better a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, just be in a better place than we were. So if you feel like this is something you can be part of, please go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and share this podcast with anybody. And remember, talk to me. I want people to talk to me. Please talk to me. So before I go, my song of the week, you already know what's coming. My song of the week. So I have a playlist on Spotify that I call Pumpkin Spice and Toffee. So that has my mother would say, my worldly music. My worldly music is on there. But I've been liking this song called Category. Let me tell you, I always call this my Oxlade, but I don't know if it's Oxlade. But me, African guy, so I say Oxlade, Ladeo, but it might be Oxlade. But the song is called Category. And I like the way he spells it is the way that we will say it when we are speaking with our African accent. Category. With Oxlade. That's my pop song of the week. And then my gospel song, oh my gosh, Oh Mima by Chandler Moore has had me in a chokehold. Oh Mima, you leave the 99. Always for the one. Yeah, that song has had me in a chokehold. I cannot stop singing it. Even my son requested in the car. It's just, I just feel like God was just going through him. And look at that. His sweet surrender. He has surrendered himself. You can't see it. It's evident. It is evident. It's very evident. But yeah, just, there's so many parts of that song that I was just like, okay, now you over here flexing on them with the vocals. Flex them. Go ahead. But Omema by Chandler Moore, that song has been on loop for a good minute. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful blessing to my ears and my soul. And I love it. So it's Omema by Chandler Moore. And then my regular song is Category by Oxlade. Category. As far as books, actually, I do have a book that I do want to share that I was reading recently. Between Friends and Lovers by Shirlene Obuobi. Charlene Obuobi, Between Friends and Lovers. It's a great novel, and I just finished it. And I liked it a lot. It was good. I have premium Spotify, so I'm able to listen to audiobooks on there. So I listened to that, and it was good. For somebody that's like in the medical field, and then the main character is also a Ghanaian girl. Like it checked off a lot of marks for me that just kept me engaged. And it was a good listen. And so I will recommend that one. Between Friends and Lovers by Charlene Obuobi. That's what I'm reading. Actually, I think I finished it now. Yeah, I sure did. I was like, maybe I have like one chapter left. No, I've finished it. So when I start reading something else, if it's something that I like, I will definitely go ahead and share. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Thank you for coming on the very first episode with me. I hope you will return for next week and the week after that and the week after that. And, I'm just putting it all in God's hands. I'm just letting him do his work, do what he's going to do. And then I'm just going to be here showing up. And showing up sometimes is even hard, okay? Because life be coming and life be lifing, but it still got to pop out and show up, okay? So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye. You just finished an episode of Banta with Toni. Did you like it? I hope you had a great time and that you have some takeaways from this episode. But before you go, I want to ask you one thing, and that is to share this episode or this entire podcast with a friend, family member, or acquaintance. Because remember, when you have something good, you need to talk about it. You need to share it and you need to shout it from the rooftops. So go on and let people know in your life that you have this wonderful podcast that you would like to share with them. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, your support, and everything else in between. And remember, if you do it, I have to talk about it. Have a great week.